Might as well. I bought a new laptop last night.
Ooh, nice.
So, all right. I never really know when it starts. So it's okay. It says live and preparing at the same time. So we might be live or it might be preparing.
Sounds like my life. Which one am I right
Which one am I doing? For
now?
real?
Am I living? Am I preparing? I don't know.
I like that. Okay, so I don't see it. Although then, oh, here it is. Here we go. Okay, go live.
I think we're
Oh,
live.
now
It
we are
says it on
live.
mine.
We are
Hmm.
live. We are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Axios. We did not prepare at all, but we've been preparing forever. So, welcome into this relational embodied intimacy group. This group is so chock full of, oh, here it is, fun information um, that has to do with relating. So it's like you're the perfect guest.
Hmm. I love that. I'm the perfect guest for a relating space. That feels good to me.
Yeah, like the moment I met you, like you are relatable tools. You're a communication artist. That word came out, when I was describing you, and I really want to stick with it. Um, and so I brought you here today because we're having this panel on Thursday. You're one of the guests, and I love the topic that you're talking about. It's like, I want someone I like to do research on attachment and involve me in talking about it.
Hmm. Perfect.
Yeah,
We're doing it.
good. We're doing it. So, welcome everyone who's joining. We might just go straight through, but if you have questions, please write them. And I want to encourage you to show up on Thursday night. Tickets are $18. Sign up because this is just a toe dip. And Axios is pretty genius about communicating. So this is very lucky. I know. I know. I knew you were going to make a face. Um,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
want to say something to that when you're finished.
Okay. So yeah, anything you want to say about like who you are, why are you interested in communication? What's like anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. Well, I think that everything I speak to goes back to the beginning. Like, attachment theory is very much based in how we were brought up and how that impacts us now. And my desire personally to learn how to communicate definitely came from being in an environment where no one's communicating. I feel scared. I feel like I don't know where my place is in this. And yeah, the gift of I will never live this way. This is not what I want. And the yeah, so the gift of like having that desire to like be something different, to step into a different place, to sort of create something that um, yeah, I didn't wasn't brought up with. And yeah, I feel like I could go in a lot of different directions with this,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wanted to say to you, like, yeah, when I hear someone say, "Oh, you're so great at communicating, you're a master at communication," I want to say, which I imagine is something you're gonna really agree with, Shane. I don't want to put it on you, but I imagine you would. Is that like the only reason why I feel I've gotten better at communication is because I don't know if I can swear in this group, but
Oh yes.
okay, I thank you. It feels good. I fucked fucked up many times, and just like it's just like this constant vulnerability. I'm putting myself out there, and I'm getting impact, and I'm receiving feedback, and I'm being with the discomfort, being with the awkwardness, being with the pain, and growing from that, and learning from that, and learning how to do things differently. And yeah, noticing like I keep coming to the space of like, oh, there's so many threads I can go with this, and I also don't want to lose people in the same sense, because I know there's just like a lot of as I'm with this, there's a lot of energy to this. So I'm wanting to, for me, I wanted to slow down in that, and just, yeah, I think the core message that I want to start with is, Yeah, communication is hard. Oh my God, like communicating is difficult, especially when you want to, if you want to be real and true and honest and like show up as you really are. And that's, um, oof, that can be quite a challenge. And the paradox of that is that it can be so easy and simple and amazing and like it can be such a life bringing thing, and it also can be the most terrifying thing in the world. So I want to like own both, because sometimes I get too far into this like, oh, this is difficult, because I want to acknowledge that this isn't easy all the time, and at the same time like, yeah, it can be very easy. And that's really, at least for me as a communicator, I'm striving for ease. I'm striving to, being with you, Shane, it's like, oh, it's easy. We can just like, we don't have to prepare something. We can just come on here and be with each other and I feel safe with you. I feel comfortable with you because we've had many conversations where we're kind of permission each other to be this way, to show up in this way. And there's just, yeah, that's the world that I want to live in. That's what I'm here to bring, is like a world where we can show up. We can, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be scared, and we're going to hold each other in that and normalize the experience. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to, I don't know, feel like you're falling out of the boat. You don't have to be rejected from society. Um, yeah, and there's, again, this feels like such a huge topic. So as I'm speaking, I'm constantly like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. And okay, so I'm gonna slow down. And yeah,
There's an animal communication happening. And
they feel it. They feel the.
yeah, and it's interesting, there are so many threads, but I'll use the one that's most loud right now. Is like there's a primal sense to protect. Oh, this is quite the integration.
Mm,
And like that's what my dog and this cat, like, this is my space, get out.
mhm.
And I think as humans, we do that with our hearts in a way that separates. And it's, and it feels right because we have this little person in us that's like, don't hurt me, leave me alone. I don't take anything from me. Don't make me feel bad or stupid. Or so we do the separating. And what we're doing and why it's hard is to undo everything that we've been taught. Hey, this is safe. Protect your heart, keep it closed, be cool, like don't show your parts, don't show your mess. Then nobody will like you. They're not going to love you. They're not going to want to marry you or be your friend. So it feels so counterintuitive to protect, to like open your heart and not protect it. I'm just focusing on the heart, but there's so many different body parts even that are just like, you can't have that. Here, you can have this. And sometimes it looks like crumbs, and it's not always intentional. It's just like, that's my shit, And I think this is why the attachment piece is such a big deal, and all the different ways we show up. And during COVID time, like, this is what the panel is about, but we can touch on it a little bit, is like how our communication and attachment styles and avoidance and all that stuff shows up every fucking where. It doesn't mean if you're not dating a physical person that it won't show up on Zoom.
Totally, absolutely, 100% agree. And in my experience, it's not. I don't just have one attachment style all the time. There's different attachment styles based off of different relationships, based off of, like you said, different situations, different types of intimacy. I think there's not just one thing. I mean, these are just theories. These are generalized theories that help us to see the patterns and notice things, and perhaps become more aware of what's happening. But yeah, there is like such a it's such a uh, diversity. I mean, obviously life is diverse. There's so many different ways in which we experience the world and each other.
Yes. And I'm even seeing like, oh my God, like my teenager part of me has a very different attachment style than the little girl in me.
Mm,
And so it never felt so true as to say like humans are complicated.
yep.
Like as right this minute, where every single part of me that's a part has a shadow and a light part and expectations, and they're all moving at the same time. And all that can be said is hello. And then all of a sudden, all these like parts have like some shit to say. protection, not protection. I want to be in love. I'm a goddess of the world. No, but he's too handsome. He's gonna hurt you. Like all these like ninja threads that literally like get provoked when there's a new energy presented.
Mhm.
I love this shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of just reminds me of, I create music. And one thing that's very apparent is that the more I learn about music and how to produce it, the more aware I become of the nuances of how different frequencies play against each other, how, like, yeah, if I layer different instruments, how they sound, just like all these different production things that I wasn't aware of when I first started. So I feel that's very similar to this human experience of gaining awareness, and suddenly there is this sense of complexity that comes out of that sense of awareness. But I think there's also, I think it's like there's like a natural come and go to it, because it's like
Yeah.
uh or just coming, you learn something, you achieve a mastery of it, and then it simplifies, and then or even like the process of teaching it becomes the simplification process. And so I think we're kind of speaking in this attachment theory thing, at least for me where I'm at right now. It feels very complex at times. It feels like, oh my gosh, there's so many nuances to it, there's so many things that are going on, and how do I be with all of it at once? I imagine that one day it'll be like, oh, this, I feel like I understand this. There's a simpleness to this, and I'm going to move forward. I guess that's my intention, is to reach simplicity. Um, and why did I share that? Hmm. Maybe there's a part of me that that wants to feel hopeful, because sometimes it
Yeah.
does feel hopeless, and
Yeah.
especially when, yeah, when I am activated, when this part for me, it's anxious attached. When that part of me is activated, it's like, holy shit, I'm not in control of my brain anymore. Like something's overriding my mind, and everything, it's just a mess. And I just have to sit there and be with it, and just be like, okay, this isn't me, but it is me. Okay. I guess I'm just gonna breathe. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting, just talking about my own experience from the other night. Like I was super activated by someone, and I just felt like so righteous in my fucking shit. And yet, after and then looking at it since then, I'm like, wow, that was so pinpointed of what. And so there's something about, and you lead circles and you lead authentic relating. And there's something about that wounded point when it's like, I can't control my brain. I don't know what's happening. Like, oh, my heart is actually activated and jumping at, and I'm like, I want to attack someone. Like, that's very real. Oh, finish the thought, Shane. And how do having it witnessed so that it's not like, oh,
Mm,
I leaked my shit out. And now I have to report that to a bunch of friends to get their opinion,
mhm,
who are maybe interested in what I'm saying, maybe just projecting their own shit, versus like showing up at places. Because I got a lot of insight. Let's say you're leading this circle. I know you witnessed it. And then someone else reference to it being like a hammer, like the way I
mm,
was coming. And I
mhm,
love that because I was like, yeah, there's something very protective about what I'm doing. And so awareness and also having a lived experience that is, it's real and it's for experimental like workshop purposes for something like that, um that it's given the opportunity. And that's why I think that's the reason we all do this consciousness work is like, can somebody help me see what I can't control? Because when I'm in it, it's just so deep in it. I can't be like, oh, I'm so curious. And it's also needed. Like, I didn't want to not have that experience because it makes me look crazy. So I think there's all this experiential communication thing that I'm so grateful for that. And yeah, anything you want to say to that?
yeah, no, 100%. These relational spaces that are becoming more and more prevalent, I just feel so grateful for, because, like, I mean, you didn't say this, but I'm saying it. There is a lot of shame that comes with the real experience, at least for me. Like, and to not have that sense of being held. I mean, when I'm feeling shame, it's usually because I'm not being held in my experience, and that person is either like not able to be there with me or is just gone, and I'm alone. And like you said, that now I have to seek out someone and try to show them the experience that just happened and help them get my world in some way. But I love just like, yeah, the idea of having spaces where it's like on demand on demand, yeah, essentially trauma work, being able to be with a trauma response, notice what's happening, get feedback on demand, and learn and grow from it. And then ideally, obviously ideally is that, when that experience reemerges in my actual real world life, then I respond differently, which has happened for me a
Yeah.
lot, and I'm grateful for, super grateful for. So
Yeah. It's funny now. I feel like, oh, I was holding back. Like, so interesting. Like the idea that it's like meditation. People like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at it. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
no fucking shit. No one is.
Right.
We're human and we've been trained to be quiet and to half reveal things. So when I first started doing this work of any kind, I was such a bully of it. I'm like, you have to come to class. You have to. Mainly because like the little parts of me were like, are you going to be my friend? Because I can't hang out with you if you're a mess like that. You need to understand
Mm.
how to. And so I think that's why people like us and a lot of people in this group are super passionate about doing this work. Um, because I don't want to have trauma responses and feel so out of control. And then it's like a shit sandwich and then piling on the guilt, the shame, and just like shutting out a whole part of the world of life, like love, like intimate romantic love, and being like, I'm not good at that.
Mhm.
I'm just,
Right.
yeah, I'm just not going to have that. That's okay. I'm so happy with other things.
Totally. It's so, yeah, I really resonate with that justification. Just like, oh, it's how easy it is to just like shut off the experience, to be like, I don't need that. I don't need that. And I've certainly done that in my life, and it certainly catches up.
It
Caught
catches
up to
up.
me.
Yes, it
Yeah,
catches
caught
up
up to
and it's a
me.
mess.
Ah, yeah, it's a mess. There. Hmm. Yeah. I was just about to talk about needs, and then I was like aware of one of the attachment styles, which is like
Oh,
the
I'm so
avoidance
glad.
style.
Yeah, yeah. Share.
Yeah, avoidance
What are you?
style. Yeah, so we have the avoidant types, which are, they don't, oftentimes you'll see them reject needs. Like, I don't have needs. Like, which means like, I don't need you. Like, I don't need to depend on you for anything. Like, I'm totally good. Because they've adapted to be independent, because they ultimately have been abandoned in some way, perhaps little way or a big way, but it impacted them, perhaps when they were a child, maybe at a different time, but it happened, and so that's a response. And then there's the anxious attached, which is moi.
I'm like, I'm both. I don't know where I fit in, but
Yeah, you're well, you had told me that you're fearful avoidant,
fearful avoidant.
which,
Oh yeah. Yes.
yeah, which is a little bit of the both. So, well, just to
Okay, yeah.
name it, the anxious is, um, you could call them very needy, like the opposite of the avoidant. So like I do have needs, and I'm gonna come closer to you to get my needs met, and when you back up, I get very anxious. And are you gonna leave me? Oh my God, like you're gonna go away. Oh, so there's like anxiousness in that. And then the fearful avoidant is like kind of gets both of those worlds. And I've kind of experienced that. Some of my friends have said, when I come in close and then this person backs up, then I back up. I don't know if you experience it like that
That's
at
yeah.
all.
Because I think I don't let my anxious out. I'm like,
Yeah.
that shit is so insecure and uncomfortable. I don't want anyone to know about that.
Yeah.
And it happens
Oh, yeah.
every time. So then I'm like, I'm just gonna live in this tower where everybody can come cert like so close.
Mhm.
But like my anxiety can be through the roof. And then I take the pleasure and the joy out of it right away.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
And I love what you said, that with different people, different things. Oh my God, I just watched this movie on Netflix. It's called Malcolm and Marie.
Hmm.
The whole movie is a couple fight. It's really good, really done well. And I was so anxious watching the whole freaking movie. I was like, wow, I'm laying in bed and my heart is terrified. It's just like, are you going to leave? You should leave. Are you going to leave? Like the whole movie.
Oh.
So, and then, oh, you know what? I think I watched it Saturday night. I watched it after our circle and I was just like, I am so fucked up in this realm.
Mm.
And part of me is just like, I just want someone else who, oh, they could be fucked up as long as they're aware. Then I'm like, okay, cool. Let's put our fucked up shit in the cauldron, because I always feel stupid. So I think, and that's so young, but it's also, it didn't go away. So yeah, if you want to share just a little bit, so people will be excited about Thursday. But what, I don't want to limit you. That's weird to say, but yeah, like how do people know what their styles are? Like, yeah, and is it yeah, I don't know, anything you want to say.
Yeah. How do you know what your style is? Well, I would say like a few months ago, I was like, oh, I'm totally secure attachment. That's also something I don't know. I guess that's like usually the famous last words for me. Like I'm the totally like the regulated version of this.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't have any problems. Yeah, so my avoidance self was speaking there. But yeah, I mean, usually it comes to at least let's see, I can only speak for myself, but for me it was through the pain, the confusion, the like what the fuck is happening right now. And then I mean, actually the whole thing that inspired this talk is like, oh my God, how helpful is it to know that there is some sort of generalized understanding of patterns that do exist in a lot of human beings and are playing out a lot of the time. And yeah, so yeah, how do you notice it? I think direct experience is one thing. Something you might, if you read the descriptions of the things, you might be like, oh yeah, I was that way in that relationship, or like, oh yeah, that's when I'm afraid, that's usually how I'm responding. Or yeah, I'm typically, or maybe you can connect to the times when you're most anxious in your life. Most anxious, what are the times where you're most fearful? What are the times where you like feel most almost like disgusted by something and wanting to get back? Like, I mean, any of those, it's like, yeah, just like wanting to distance, fear, anxiety, those are some like core feelings, emotions that speak to these patterns that we're speaking to here. So just noticing what you're feeling, that's the first step there. Um, and then acknowledging it, and kind of like what you were just speaking to before, Shane, is that by bringing that to the table with your partner or whoever you're having this experience with, naming like, hey, I'm noticing that I'm showing up in this way. I notice that like I'm really anxious in this way, and then would you be willing to, and then making requests based off of knowing the pattern and say, hey, this is kind of what's happening for me, kind of sharing some context, and then requesting what might we be able to do here so that I can feel a bit more safe in our connection, and you maybe can feel a little bit more understanding of what the fuck's happening with me, because I imagine it's confusing or whatnot. But that's just kind of like at least my basic steps of understanding and being with, and yeah. But
Love what you just shared. You know, I love this style of communication, which is like, hey man, I'm confused too. This is a human experience and I'm feeling a whole hell of a lot and I want to understand it. Versus like, I'm a crazy girl and this is what it looks like when girls are crazy. You know, that kind of, and I want to thank everyone who's here. People are writing lovely things depending on, yeah. So it's good stuff. Oh, I'm glad you're here, Josette. So what you just said was like, that's the piece of relating that's human. It's not gender based. It's just like, I'm noticing I want to run away right now. I'm noticing that my heart's really racing and I'm feeling really rejected. Versus like, I don't need this shit. You know, I gotta go. Which even in the highest of consciousness, I've seen myself overreact. No, I've seen myself act out. And I'm like, wow, what just happened? And there's some humbling ego death stuff where it's like, hey, can I come back? And not be like, I'm coming back, dramatic to fight with you. You know, and it's beautiful drama for the theater, but it wreaks havoc on nervous systems, and it keeps people in relationships like avoiding the largest pink elephant in the room. That's like, I feel hurt, I can't get over it, and I'm waiting for you to hurt me again so that I could blame the whole gender or, you know, all that.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels so good to name all of it. I have to
It-
say, like, even as I name it, it's like freedom for me. Because I think I even run intimacy things because I'm like, can somebody call me out on my loneliness? You know, like, I'm not. It's funny, but it's not funny, and it's really fun to teach what we need to learn, of course. And the way I love meeting people is by being a teacher. So I put myself in this predicament. I'm like, if you're just a schnook who doesn't know anything about communication, you're not going to fly here. It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So just like the coping mechanisms that we create in order to get to be loved, really.
Totally.
Right. That felt like a devotional, but
Yeah. The coping mechanisms we create to be loved, because we want to be loved. We all just want to be loved. In the end, we all just want to be loved.
like, can you love my farts? Can you love the way I like, I'm crazy? Like, that's the kind of intensity that I want. And I don't always know how to initiate it. Like, I fall back into like, hi, I'm pretty and I do a lot of really cool things. You know, can you just really like that part? The other stuff, like, I don't want to bring that to the table. It's gross.
Yeah, and that brings in the piece of love that I've found in this experience, which I'm constantly coming back to, which has been super healing for me, at least, is just the words radical patience.
Ooh.
And just being radically patient with myself, and just it's okay if I react out. It's okay if I'm scared. It's okay if I'm feeling totally anxiously filled and extremely needy. It is okay, and I can be patient with myself. I can be patient with myself, and I can be patient with you if you're acting out, if you're being some way that I don't like, if you're being complete crazy, bat bitch crazy, whatever you want. I can be patient with you, and I can really seek to understand. And yeah. So yeah, coming back to love for me is just being patient with. This is a process. This takes time. Like, not everything, like, doesn't all happen at once. It usually goes slower than I want it to go. I wish I was different sometimes, but I'm just gonna accept who I am now. I'm just gonna be patient with where I am now.
That's like medicine. And there's some really amazing people watching this and like loving this. And radical patience, I want everyone to take that medicine. And the only way we can be that way for other people, because it's fucking unachievable unless you can do it for yourself. It's unachievable. That muscle's not there. You can't lift a car if you don't have muscles. And it's that radical patience. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And I also say another word I really love that you're speaking to is self-leadership. That we are the leaders in a relationship. If you can really own that, I'm the leader. I'm going to lead myself first and foremost, and that's going to inform how I'm choosing to show up. You can fuck up. You can fuck up in a relationship, and you can own that, and that can be the biggest form of leadership in the world. Like, just like you were saying, Shane, of just like acting out, then taking a step back, and then coming back, be like, yeah, and bringing a different vibe. Bringing a different vibe.
Hey, I want to bring a different vibe. It's so ego death. Like, I don't throw that term around ever. But this is like, if I make a big stink and I'm right. And I really did this the other night. We were in this circle and I was about to be like, I have to go. I'm too cool for this. And then I was like, Shane, stay. what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Go eat pizza in the kitchen? Like, everyone's home. These are cool people. Hang out. But there was a part of me that was like, this motherfucker doesn't deserve your time as a cool person. And I ended up really, really enjoying myself. Really just, but it was a total, okay, I'm gonna bring a different vibe. And yeah, I really want to be proud of myself for that, because I was so ready to do my like Shane has left the building move, and I didn't.
I love that. I love that so much. And that ultimately just requires a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of just ultimately, yeah, at least I know I'm saying it for you, but like I'm speaking from my own experience of like vulnerability. It just requires, hey, you know what? I can be vulnerable. Okay, okay. Let me be with this. There's something here. There's a reason why I'm responding in this way. So why don't I just stay to find out what it is? You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing what can happen just by sticking around a little bit longer,
Oh,
getting into that edge a little bit longer than I normally would, and seeing what happens.
it's so interesting. I have these like two things I want to bring with that is like people, i.e., me, who stays too long in something that just
Mm,
isn't right,
mhm.
or do I stay and go in it? If everybody watches this movie, I would love to know the opinions. Maybe we should do
Yeah,
like a watch
that's
party.
great.
It's so fucked. Psyche, relating, anger, all this stuff. And I think that's like another interesting road. It's like, oh yes, stay longer. How about this person who stayed for 20 years and it's fucked up and abusive,
Mm,
but they da 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 da, all that.
yeah, that's such a great perspective. And ultimately, if you're aware of your attachment style or the one that's like if you had a primary one, you know, for me I say it's anxious. Um, you know, you have a bit of both, but we were kind of just speaking to your avoidant side in that scenario that like wants to just go eat pizza. So in that sense, like I'm imagining it's you know the counter the way to counter that would be to sit with it more and be with it more instead of like going away. Whereas for a more anxious attached person, my tendency is to attach and hold on and cling on as long as I can. So for for this type, it might be a bigger edge to like, okay, I'm gonna actually like distance myself for a bit and see what that's like. I'm gonna detach for a bit and see because that might be a bigger edge to be with.
Right.
So I'm glad you spoke to that because it's true
Yeah.
to me.
What about it's like I avoid and just be with my anxiety by myself. I think, and you mentioned this word, but like the nuances of
Yep.
from moment to moment, it can even be. Yeah. So I just want everyone to know there's no absolute. There's no absolute here, which is back to curiosity. It's like knowing the different styles and just, you know, now, of course, I could be like, it's like a game. You just name the one that you have, what you're feeling, or, but it's really high stakes in those moments. And if I'm fucking pissed and someone's like, oh, you're acting pretty like anxious avoidant, like I would just punch them in the face, you know, there would be no like, oh, let's, but I think, yeah, going away, coming back with a different vibe, like that's like a method. It seems like a method. Like I'm gonna come back with a different vibe. I'll be right back. I don't know. I'm just trying to like get my mind around that. I really like it.
Yeah, and just speaking to that, it sounds like you're talking about like a strategy that might work for
My
you,
brain
that
and
might be
like
effective.
I'm getting
some
something's
feedback.
overriding my mind and everything. It's just a mess, and I'm like, and I just have to sit there and
I
be.
think your video is playing on your end.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what's
and
happening.
just speaking to that, it sounds like you're talking about like a strategy that might work for you, that might be effective.
Something
Has over
I'm getting some
something's
feedback.
overriding my mind.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I was yeah. Speaking of just like strategies, yeah. There's like once we become aware of these patterns, then we can have strategies that may or may not work. But I mean, in a lot of conscious communication, you know, communities where you could talk about like NVC. There's a lot of in nonviolent communication. There's just like a lot of different strategies that we can use to stay present with another in conflict. And yeah, there's certainly a lot of those things. So yeah, and there's nuances, and they don't always work. Sometimes they really work. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, oh my god, this is like this is like the cure all, and sometimes, and then the next day it's like, wow, this didn't work at all. Oh my gosh. So I noticed that especially with empathy practices, that I'll use them in some contexts, yeah, work amazing, and in other contexts, totally missing you somehow, even though I'm doing all the things I just did with this other person. So yeah.
Well, that feels like a good pause moment.
Mhm.
And we have some questions about when are these circling groups, and you know, that might be something that grows, or I don't know the offerings on that, but and you don't have to, you know, you can come up with something, or and then also I want to invite everybody personally right now, as we are in this personal way, that Thursday we're doing a panel that I'm on, Hardy Brooklyn is on, talking about boundaries and consent, and Devi Maisha is talking about relating and play parties and sexuality, sex magic, and integrating it into this COVID world. Like, how the fuck do we? So there's a lot of really good information. I'm going to be talking about the inner child, and how to commit to play and pleasure at the same time. That just came together. And I'll put the link up. Tickets are $18, and we're going to be engaging with you and playing with you. And this is a community that's amazing, because all four of us come from, just because we live in different places, but you know, we different communities. And so it's really nice to bring people together and play, and to see what comes up when the four of our energies are like sharing what we're really passionate about. So let's see, anything else you want to share? Or I know we just gave so much. I know everybody's probably, yeah, I'd love to know, people who are watching, like, what's happening in your body as you're hearing all this? I love that question. Sometimes I use it as a way to get like into somebody's face, but right now I'm really curious, like how I feel very energized. Like I feel like a lot of energy in my upper body. Like I could stand up and go look for somewhere to shovel. Yeah, how is this landing for you when you're listening? So you can type that if you watch live or on the replay. And there's such a beautiful, amazing people here who are like communication hungry, like we all are, but they know what they're looking for. Yeah, anything you want to take a minute, or anything you want to share? I feel like I'm opening up, curious. I'll read them.
Yeah, I'd love to hear them,
Yeah,
because I can't
great.
see them.
So we have curious. I feel like I'm opening up. Beautiful. One of the circling groups. Love it. Radical patience. Yay. Move it. Let's see. You know, there's 18 comments. For some reason, I can't move it. We'll read them. Yeah. Wait, anything else? Anybody want to share anything that that would feel good to share in this space, whether you think it's relevant or not? Okay, some tightness in my chest.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to share too is takes what's so helpful when I feel triggered in relationship with someone is just coming back to the body, and just really, even just saying it. It's kind of, it can sound weird when you're with the person, but it really works for me. And it's certainly less weird than reacting all over the place. And I know you have a different relationship, weird, Shane. So, but but weirdness in terms of like if you're worried about like showing up in a different way, or like, oh, am I like, how am I being right now? What am I actually trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is that when I'm in my body, and I'm noticing my body, and I'm activated, and I just name it, there can be experience for me like I'm able to ride my emotions like a waterfall, and just like, and actually feel kind of grounded in that. Like, okay, I'm noticing, well, lots of attention in my neck and my chest, and I notice this sense of anger in my stomach, and I'm feeling, oh, I feel confused and a bit lost, and okay, and then suddenly like suddenly there's like a it's like I allow the emotions to move through me. And they're able to flow through me, rather than being stuck there. And now I'm like, oh, and I have to like defend myself. no, I can like flow them through me. And now I'm like, oh, okay. And you just heard me. We're here now. There's something about that that's really powerful. So I love that you just brought us back to the body, because it's just so important.
Oh, and just listening to you say it, it's human. It's like, oh, I have shoulders. I know what that feels like. I have, a chest. I have a neck. My stomach can feel angry.
Yeah.
I think it invites a natural curiosity, like of a little kid who's like, you have boogers? I have boogers. Like just relating in that human way. Here I feel like we're talking, in intimacy, but it could be with anything. But I think just, naming the context of like
Yeah.
with the most vulnerable, because when I think of family relating, I think of like just, like antlers stuck together for the last 20, 30, 40 years. But with
Right.
someone newish, or a relationship that's taking a turn, it's like there's more interest in doing well.
Totally.
So yeah, I think that's great insight to just say like, oh, what's happening. And also it's like each body part is being seen. I think there's tremendous amounts of being witnessed. Like, oh, my heart's racing and I feel like I want to just curl up and hide. It's like, oh, okay, there's no blame. There's no, yeah.
Yeah, right, totally. And that's a skill within itself, of course, of just really keeping it about you and not about this other person, and like not making associations between things like, oh, this racing heart is because of the way that you're looking at me, or or that like this anger is the result of what you just said, or no, I feel angry. My heart is racing, and yeah, it's challenge.
It's a challenge, and it's, yeah, but it's such a good start.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I love teaching lessons, but if everyone can just really like what they're doing already, like tightness in my chest, like really naming it, even, let's say curious. It's like, ooh, what does curious feel like? Like, oh, I'm leaning forward. Oh, I have a pen in my hand. Like I want to write things down. Ooh, I'm thinking of people. Ooh, my shoulder, just really naming what happens in the body. And I have some clients, this is the hardest fucking thing. Like they're like, I feel good. I just feel good. I'm like, what does good feel like? Well, and they get mad. I'm like, now you feel, I'm like, I feel good. I'm like, that doesn't sound good. So I want to say like with me and you and people who do it, or just right now, I feel like, oh, it's so easy to name your body. But if you don't know your body, it's also very normal. And it's a great place to want to learn. Oh, my shoulders can be like this. So like I tell clients, relax your asshole. You know that I say that to people.
Yeah.
And most people are like, I had no idea I was squeezing my ass probably for the last 40 years until you just like bring awareness to it. And you're like, oh, wow. Because when you squeeze your asshole, the rest of your body is like on some level.
Yep. I have it, for me, it's like clenching my jaw.
Oh,
I think that's another common one. Whenever someone names clench, you just names it, I immediately relax. Like, oh my gosh, been holding that.
yeah.
And that's another thing to name too, is that, yeah, when you say relax your asshole, my asshole relaxes. It's a domino effect.
It's like a yawn.
Yeah, it totally is. An asshole yawn. That's great.
I was on this Rockaway radio station and it's all men. And I came in on a Valentine's show and I was like, let's do a relax your asshole meditation. And one guy was like, I think they just pooped. Like it's really a retentive thought that you might feel out of control actually if you release your, it's like,
Yep.
I'm a big control freak. And so just noticing when my face is doing this furrowed look, it's like, oh wait, I have a choice. I have choices here. And those choices impact the way we think, like the oxygen in our body can't flow. If you think about it, whatever, there's a million different metaphors, but if you're tight and you try to breathe, like it's not easy. If you relax, it's like, and most triggered moments, especially in communication, are like blocked arteries where it's like, I just need to survive, help, I feel stupid, I feel all these things. So I mean, we could talk about this forever. I love this topic.
Totally. We totally could. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's see. We did it. It's about 30 minutes. We kept in time. We gave a lot of goodies. And the other cool thing I want to share just about the event itself. Oh, my asshole is always relaxed. Beautiful. Such a good brag. Is that we will be, so we'll be live. It starts at 7. The panel starts at 7:30. And then each of us are giving away free goodies. So when you get your $18 ticket, and 18 in Jewish means chai, which means life. So that's why I love 18.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah, I'm like, I should tell people. I forget that I don't remember to tell people. And then so everybody will get to participate and play and also win a chance at receiving any of our gifts. So you can read more about that on the Eventbrite. See, anything you want to close on or?
I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked to hear all y'all and be with y'all, and excited to see if all the lovely people that show up, and yeah, excited to answer questions and be with others' experiences around this, and just have a lively discussion around all these things that are really important. Yeah, consent. What was the other one? Consent, and why am I forgetting the other one?
What was that? What was it about?
But the event in general, consent and boundaries.
Yes,
boundaries.
yes, all of it.
All the things.
Oh, and you said something great. If anybody has a question, where the people who have the $18 tickets are going to have a chance to do Q&A. But if you're not there for whatever reason, if you can put your questions here, we'll collect them and answer them. Maybe, I don't know. I just made that up, but it seems like the right.
I liked it.
I like it too. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining. And it's this Thursday night at 7 Eastern Standard Time. We have a transmission of music and sitar happening at 7. And then 7:30, we get it kicking. And it's Lounging and Learning, which is a fun title because it's really, you don't have to sit like this. You can be laying down, totally chilling. It's a dressed event. Nudity is not preferred. I've had some experiences, so I want to mention that. That's it. So if you want to expand your community, feel really good, and take part. And the differences will be on Zoom together, so you won't be just like typing comments. Each participant is going to be offering a practice or question answering or some kind of engagement. So that's the fun part. That's what we really want to do, is relate and have more playmates and have more people to play with. All right. Well, have a great afternoon, everybody. Axios, thanks for making time to do this, and see you again on Thursday.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Bye, everyone.